Hey, everybody, welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast. I am Sam, your show host, once again joining you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We've recorded a lot of podcasts. This is episode 166. I've been fortunate enough to be able to host most of them, and I can honestly say this one may be my favorite one to date. Um, the story, the experience, all of which I was fortunate enough to be a part of, just second to none. Nothing like this has ever happened before. And we were able to podcast about it, which is awesome. So this week, I am joined by our Western staff coordinator here at Fall Obsession, Tim Burgess, in person in Colorado, Flatland Mule Deer Camp, as well as our Midwest Mindset show producer, Mike Teepee. He's in camp with us as well. Tim invited both Mike and I to come up and hunt with him this fall with a couple different tag options. We'll leave that for the story. But for me to be able to be in camp with these guys, to be podcasting in person with these guys, fresh off of a hunt, there hadn't been anything quite like it for us here at Fall Obsession Podcast yet. So really, really great story. I'm looking forward to you guys listening to this conversation, during which I'm going to get to share with you guys the incredible, crazy story of my very first mule deer ever in my life. But before we get there, though, Fall Obsession Podcast is brought to you guys by Hoot Camo. I'm actually rocking their Black Ops pullover in the podcast video. If you guys are watching, it came in the mail today, so I'm super excited to have it. But Hoot is a camouflage manufacturer. They are based out of Texas, but they have gear and products that are applicable across the country in all sorts of different environments. We were actually wearing Hoot gear. We debuted it for the first time in Colorado on this hunt that we're going to talk about. So when the video comes out, you guys are going to actually get to see this gear in action. I was incredibly, incredibly impressed by it, as you guys will find out in the story. But the gear is awesome. We can't say enough good stuff about it. Go check out Hoot Camo. The best part of it is these guys are centered, and their mission is to provide quality product, even with the industry leaders, but at an affordable price point for the blue-collar guy, just like you and me. So that being said, all their prices that you're going to see on their website are very affordable if you're looking to get into a good, high-quality set of camo or outdoor gear, and they have even more products coming to the market in future. So go check them out, hootcamo.com, and if you are interested in picking something up, even if it is something like this Black Ops pullover that I'm wearing, use the code FallObsession15 at checkout, and that'll save you guys a few dollars, and give our boys over at Hoot a shout out. So Hoot Camo, go check them out. Ridge Rock Hunt Company is another podcast partner. Derek and Lacey over there in Mississippi, they book hunts with vetted and trusted outfitters across the country. So if you guys are looking for that next hunting adventure, once in a lifetime experience, whatever it may be, want to change it up, try something different, give Derek a call. He will work with you on location, what you want to hunt, timeline, licensing, everything, the whole 9 yards, and get you squared away with an outfitter that he himself trusts. So Derek Eves over there at Ridge Rock, he's the man. Give him a call. Go check him out on social media too, Ridge Rock Hunt Company. Finally, the podcast is also driven by the Outdoor Call radio app. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he created an app that you can download on any device, during which you can stream hunting podcasts and shows on a loop 24/7 every day of the week. You'll catch Fall Obsession Podcast on there on Mondays, same as our new publications, as well as tons of other shows that you guys all know and love. They just play on a loop every single day, so if you miss the first run of it, you can catch a later one. It's pretty cool how he's got that set up. He also does a couple of live shows on local radio stations in the Midwest every week, and he also shares those broadcasts on his Facebook Live. So you can check him out on social media as well, and be sure that you download the Outdoor Call radio app. Last but not least, I'll say just really quick, if you guys have your own outdoor brand or organization, however big or small it may be, and you're interested in maybe promoting them through this podcast during this sponsor segment, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out. Go to fallobsession.com/podcast And there's a form on there that you guys can fill out that'll put you in touch with myself and our production team, and we can talk details on what it's going to look like on both ends of the thing. So if you're interested in promoting on this segment, be sure you reach out. Again, that's fallobsession.com/podcast. That's it. We're going over to the podcast episode now. I hope you guys enjoy. You are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
All right, guys, we're back for another Fall Obsession podcast and a little bit different scenery this week. One, we're in person, which is freaking awesome. I'm recording with two guys that I've recorded with many times before, but never together, and certainly never in person.
Mm-hmm.
We are in Colorado. If you guys are watching the video, we're in the basement. Mule deer camp. Whitetail camp.
Deer camp.
Deer camp 2023, Colorado, on the Burgess farm. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And I want to start off, Tim, by thanking you and your family for y'all's hospitality. You're the one who extended the invite to Mike and I to come out here. I'm recording with Mike Teepee and Tim Burgess, if I didn't say it already, from our Fall Obsession team. But thank you, Tim, for letting us come out here. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great to have you guys.
Thank you very much, Tim. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. But so I really don't even know where to start, if I'm being honest, because the plan originally when we came down here, we knew we wanted to record a couple of podcasts, get on the mics, hang out, have a good time. I didn't know what to expect, first off, but I certainly didn't expect to be recording after everything that has already happened. So it's yeah, I don't even know where to begin, man. It's been incredible.
Should probably start with how this all started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go back to
how long it's taken you to accept my invite.
You have been you've been very patient with me, and you've been inviting me for, I think we were saying 3 or 4 seasons now is what it seems like. Certainly 3 at least. But to come out here and hunt mule deer in farmland basically is what it is. And it's a different, for those who may have hunted mule deer in the mountains or other places, it's certainly a different concept, a different beast, if you will. And you talk to me about all of my options, and you, as our returning listeners know, you're very well educated in the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, like the draw applications and putting in for all that kind of stuff. You walk me through it, and I appreciate that for sure. But it's I was coming down here with a bow to hunt mule deer in flat country farmland. So
in rifle country.
In rifle country, that's a good point.
Yeah, definitely rifle country.
Yes.
So yeah, that's where it all started. Me finally accepting Tim's invite, putting in for an archery only tag, a deer tag, so I could shoot a whitetail or a muley. But I told you that my goal was muley because that's something I've never hunted before. I've never killed before.
Yeah,
so.
And once you said that, I was like, well, you can either wait 4 years or you can try the really hard way that nobody's ever done.
Nobody key phrase nobody's ever done. So yeah, I probably took the challenge for granted at first, if I'm being honest with you. But
until you got here.
Yeah, I got here, and I right out of the gate, and Tim wasn't lying. He was up front with me from the get-go, but it's flat.
He told us, he said,
flat.
You guys want to come out and bow hunt? That's fine. But it doesn't set up well for bow hunting.
Yeah.
And I think Sam and I, being, veteran bow hunters, thought, I've heard that before, but then you get there and you make it happen. And you realize that there's things that you can do to put things in your favor.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie. Tim told me the same thing he told you about, hey, It's mostly rifle hunting out here. We don't bow hunt. You can try it if you want. Odds aren't in your favor. And I thought, you know what? Let's just give her a shot. I think we can make him a believer in this whole archery thing, right? Well, fast forward to when we got here, which I got here day and a half after you guys.
Yeah.
And I know what Sam was already thinking. He didn't have to say it because I saw it. And it was, 2-3 hours into the hunt. You're thinking, I don't know how this is going to happen with a bow.
So on top of everything, and Tim, you can talk about this as far as how your deer behave normally. We were hit with right out of the gate, like as I'm driving in, we're hit with some abnormal conditions with snowfall, 6 to 8 inches of snow in some places probably.
Yeah, we probably got about 8 inches. So we came in on Black Friday of all the days to pick, which for me was crazy because I flew back from Washington State from visiting family. So
yeah, you had a heck of a day.
I flew back super early, dealt with getting my kids up at 3:00 in the morning, got back, worked for like an hour and a half, and then said, "Sam, I'm on my way. I'll meet you there." And at this point, Sam's supposed to be there be here 2 hours before I'd ever get here. And so we're driving out, and I was like, it's snowing, whatever. So I'll probably catch up somewhat. And I do. So
yeah, you could say that.
I end up pulling in like 50 yards ahead of Sam. So, something funny. But yeah, we had about 8 inches of snow. And then so I was like, well, the deer are just going to hunker, and we're going to have to just push them out of their beds and find them. Because a lot of the way you hunt here is basically probably the most common thing anybody else has seen is like Wyoming pronghorn hunting, where you just drive around for hours and hours and hours and just glass and glass and drive and glass and drive and glass and drive and glass until your eyeballs fall out or you're too tired and you need to just get out of the car and then you go walk something and pray.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the first morning, there's one spot that's always been really good. My brother and I both shot the 2 nicest mule deer bucks on the farm, taken at our farm anyways. My brother's was just short of 200 inch, so it's a beast. Back to back years we shot those. Anyway, so as first morning we go in there and nobody was home, and I was just like, at that point I was kind of like, there's nobody home. This is a problem. And basically we drove into a stubble field and walked about a half mile or a quarter mile down to the CRP. On the end of the CRP, there's 3 rows of evergreen trees going north to south. And we kind of snuck in there and walked those, I don't know, probably walked about half of them, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we probably walked another little less than a quarter mile, maybe 3/8 or just an eighth or so of a mile in there. Didn't see anything. At that point, I'm kind of like, the hot spot's dead. This isn't good. So we just drove around looking for stuff, and nothing was moving. Absolutely no deer moving.
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game out here, like I said, is looking and finding them moving or standing in their beds or just doing something dumb, because you'll find them in the weirdest places, and that's where, usually they're out in a cornfield eating, or they're eating on a growing wheat field, where, especially in snow, it's just a giant white field, and you'll see where they've eaten through the snow to eat the grass, and that's your chance at that point to locate them. So we're gonna, we drive around, and we did a few more things that morning and that afternoon, and just, did we even see one that first? Where we see 2 right at dusk?
It was right at last light, right at legal light. Not that it would have even mattered, but way out in that CRP field, we spotted 2 does that evening, and that was the first deer that we had seen.
Yeah.
All day. So.
And that was at it gets dark at 4, Suntown's 4:20 something.
Yeah.
So it's 4:45 when we saw them.
Yeah.
And you just saw them out the window, and yeah, that was something. And then next day we got up and the same lot of nothing on the second day. Finally at dusk on the second day, Mike had gotten into camp at basically lunch, little before lunch that day.
Yeah.
And so we ran in town, got his license and all that sorted, which with the whole landowner voucher things is always fun. And luckily the lady in town actually listened and did it the right way, because anybody can tell you those landowner vouchers are awesome, but you got to have somebody that actually knows how to let you buy them because they don't have a clue.
So tell our listeners the difference between the tag that I have and the tag that Mike has.
Yeah. So Sam put in for he did told me up front, like, I really want a mule deer and I will only use archery. And I'm like, well, you're dumb.
You're dumb.
That was basically my response. And I was like, especially because all the years I've been bugging him, like, he could have had a rifle tag this year if he had just listened to me 3 years ago. Put in for points. So let's start there. That his wallet may not be happy with him that he's put in that whole time, but he'd be okay. Anyway, so the tag he put in for, and most of the Eastern Plain Carta units, one, they have really weird seasons. So like if you don't hunt out East Carta, just forget this whole part because they get weird. But basically, his is an archery tag good for 3 segments. So the first segment is October 1st until about the 25th or so, and then a rifle season opens up for like 12 or ish days. Just the first rifle season usually ends the first Sunday in November, and then then the archery season will open from then until the second rifle season opens, which is December 1st to December 14th. And so Sam's tag is basically was good for the period he's here from when we got here until the Thursday of this week.
Yeah.
So that it's going to be whatever. The first is Friday.
Yeah.
So we basically had like set it up where he got a majority of the time where he was going to be the focus, because that's all he had. And once that closes, then there's a third window from December 16th to the end of the year. I don't think your wife was going to let you come back up no matter what happened.
No, but it probably wasn't going to be a repeat trip. And especially factor in holidays and then December, I would imagine it's probably a little colder up here, even though it's, to this Texas boy, it's cold right now. Holy cow. But
yeah. We've had some cool mornings. We've been in
it's been 10, 12 degrees
12.
Without the wind.
Yeah, and then we've had some wind a couple times. But yeah, so that's Sam's tag, is this massive archery thing. Mike, my dad, since I fought him on this, put in for a second choice of what's called a Season's Choice whitetail tag. So it's good. They have 2 different ones, but the one we got, which is the better one, is for either sex whitetail. Oh, to back up, Sam's tag is good for either sex whitetail or mule deer. So it would have been good for any deer out here.
Yeah, any deer.
Basically any deer. Where Mike's is good for whitetail, either sex. And then it's all those archery seasons I talked about, plus the rifle seasons I talked about, plus in that first archery season, there's like a week-ish long muzzleloader season you could hunt. You can hunt any of those with the weapon that's legal at the time. You just have to basically state what you're wearing or hunting with, and then have the appropriate clothing. Like if it's muzzleloader, if you're muzzleloader hunting, you have to wear your orange.
yeah.
If you're rifle, you got to wear your orange. If it's in a rifle season, you have to wear orange, even if you're using a different weapon. But yeah, so he's got that tag, and then I have a rifle only any buck tag that'll open up on Friday. So we'll talk about me later.
Well, but we had to go into town to actually, like, Mike had to get here first, and we had to go to a local office to actually get him his tag with that voucher and everything.
Yeah, so like landowner vouchers, basically, it's landowners can put in, and then they get certain tags back. And there's 2 types. There's ones that are good for basically yourself, close family, and then minor kids. And those are a lot easier for landowners to draw. They're called restricted. Or there's an unrestricted, which is what I made my dad put in for this as the second choice with this one, for that Season's Choice tag, which means anybody can use it. Landowners can sell them. They can give them away. They can any legal hunter can purchase that. Like the landowner can sell it to you. Luckily, my dad hooked you up and made it free. So
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
that saves a bunch of bucks. But if you ever see them for sale online, that's what those things are. The note to make is then you have to go to somewhere that sells licenses and pay that license fee to the state. So you had to go pay like $456 and whatever it was. I forget the exact amount, but it's $456 and change for them to turn that voucher. You hand the piece of paper with the voucher, and that's signed and everything by the landowner and signed by you into them, and then they hand you the tag after that. And like we lucked out, and the lady listened to how to do it, because a lot of times you go turn those in, and those people don't have a clue, and they do it wrong, and it's a big mess. And then they try to get that tag, and of course the tag that you're trying to get is always sold out. So it's like it's coming up with an error saying that tag doesn't exist. But it's like if they follow the protocol, they do it right. So if you ever do buy one, allow extra time at a dealer that
that's a good
knows
point.
what they're doing. Don't plan on buying it at lunchtime and being hunting in the afternoon. It may not work out that way if you have the wrong person. So be careful on those.
She didn't know what hit her, because I mean, dude, you could recite that book, that license and draw application book with your eyes closed. I'm convinced. Like, you know that thing backwards and front, man. But anyway, so we get Micah's tag, and then the hunt's on. We're both rolling with bows.
Yeah.
In the truck.
First night.
Yeah. Looking for muleys, whitetails, whatever we can stir up, but we're kind of getting the same treatment that we got the day before, at least is how it started out, at least. But toward the end of the evening, and I'll let y'all talk about it, because we're trying to just get creative. That's what kind of the end of yesterday and then today was
all of today.
Yeah, was trying to get creative, figure out what we can do to change things up, to get things going, to find these deer. And long story short, part of the plan yesterday evening was to drop me the corner of a CRP field to glass and just see if I could catch him getting up from bedding and going to eat. And y'all were going to continue driving around, and I'll let y'all talk about what y'all saw, because I didn't see anything.
Yeah. So, yeah, Tim came up with a good idea. He had a spot there for Sam where there's been historically some good action, and me and Tim, we just kept driving around and weren't turning nothing up, nothing new there. It seemed like, kind of the trend over the last 24 to 48 hours. And not only did they get 8 inches of snow here, but Saturday and Sunday, or Saturday, 20-some degrees, 20-plus mile-an-hour winds. Same thing Sunday with the winds, a little warmer, got into the 30s. So we were hoping the deer would maybe move a little better. Well, sure enough, after me and Tim drove around for half hour, 45 minutes after we dropped Sam off.
Quite a while, yeah.
It'd been a minute, and we actually located some mule deer. So we were fired up, because it's like, yes, finally, some deer moving. And seen a little forked horn 2x2 with a doe. So we pulled over to take note. Obviously for Sam, because he's out here mule deer hunting right now. And next thing you know, we ended up seeing what was it, 7 total?
Yeah, 7 total in
ended
that
up coming out of that.
Yeah,
that patch.
And one little corner patch. We call it the feed lot. It's a corner of a field. A bunch of my trail cam pictures from all over are on there. So if you look through the pictures that are posted by Fall Obsession with Tag to Me, there's a good chance that if it's a trail cam, it's probably from there. If it's got a building in the background, that's it. So historically, we've had a lot of big deer hang out in there in the summer. Usually, they're not usually there during hunting season, or if they are, they're just passing through. But no, they were chilled up in there, and we saw 7 throughout there. Just kind of drove around, and it's a small little, I don't know, maybe
it's not that big,
maybe 20 acres, 15 acres on the edge of a big old wheat field. So.
But it's super nasty.
Yeah,
you look at it and you're like, this is where the deer are gonna be.
Yeah, and it's a pheasant paradise too. And basically, like when you come to hunt pheasants the first time, usually we make you walk that if you're young and able-bodied, so that you can appreciate the rest of the day where you're not dying in that, because that stuff is
it's like a jungle.
It is a terrible walk, and you guys will have to do it before this trip's over.
Yeah, but we're doing it. Guess what?
you guys will do it before the trip's over. But yeah, so basically you push just for the sake of pushing the birds, so that the blockers can shoot them all, because you can't even pick your gun up because it's so thick in there. But so we found those, and basically at that point it's time to go pick Sam up. So we went and told him, and we made the plan that we'd put Sam in that place at this evening, if the next evening, which is today,
with the ground blind, right?
With the ground blind, if we hadn't found any. It's like this ground blind I've had for 4 years or 5 years and never used, because like I said, I've dabbled in bow hunting here and there a couple times, but never like with the intent of actually killing something. Basically, just like wasting time until rifle season opens up, kind of thing, or kill a few minutes before going pheasant hunting in the morning or at the end of the day, whenever else sit on the couch. So it was interesting getting into that, and then what happened next?
Well, I felt like, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I felt like we were almost settling for the fact that we thought we was going to have to whitetail hunt these mule deer. Mm-hmm. And we was going to have to set a ground blind up over there in that feedlot where, there was just tracks everywhere. We seen several deer. You knew the deer were in there. And we looked ahead at the forecast and seen the wind direction. We knew where they were bedded, and we knew they were going. Thought, hey, slam dunk. Like, let's go in there, set a blind up midday tomorrow. If we don't get on anything in the morning.
Yeah.
And I think we all felt really good that at least 50-50, Sam was going to get in there and
have an opportunity
at something.
Yeah.
And so we went to bed with that mindset last night. You guys got everything around, the blind and everything else. And, we decided to get up early this morning, went to bed with that idea. And Sam come up with the idea to, hey, let's get out a little earlier to see if maybe these deer are going to bed so stinking early in the morning that we're just not catching them.
Well, and to just farther stump ourselves, we're thinking where are the deer? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, Tim is thinking that too, and I've been there as the hunt host too, where you're like, golly, I bring these guys out and now nothing's working. I've been there. I know how that feels, and it's not a good feeling. And the on top of that though, we're already stumped as far as where the deer are because we're seeing tracks and signs.
God, there's tracks everywhere.
So
it's like there's not one deer doing all this.
Yeah, we know that, like, you and I haven't never been out here before. We know that there are deer here. We can see the tracks on the ground, but we're like, where are they? Because every time we walk these evergreen patches, like, where we as whitetail hunters from Midwest and South would expect there to be deer, there's not. Mm-hmm. And so we're thinking, well, they have to be eating at night. Like, the moon's not in our favor right now.
Yeah, we got a full moon.
Snow on the ground.
You can see.
Yeah.
Also, we went around last night and
that's
drove
what I was going to say.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Yeah, as I say, we drove a little bit last night just to look for coyotes because you can spotlight here for coyotes and stuff. We just kind of looked around, and like if it was a snow covered growing wheat field, you could see 400 yards.
Yeah,
with the moon
easy.
from the road, easy. So we were just kind of like, crap. Well, that's why the deer aren't. They're just sleeping all day and going around at night and.
But then doing that, we didn't see anything.
We might have seen one deer. We thought maybe. That's it.
Yeah. Spotlight.
When we were flashing for coyotes, we thought we saw maybe one off in the distance.
But but further stumping us, right? Because we're like they got to be getting up and eating at night, and then we didn't see any do it when we were spotlighting coyotes. We didn't see any coyotes either. And then this morning, like you said, the mentality of, hey, let's get up early and see if we can catch them coming back to bed. Mm-hmm. Didn't see anything and I get we're in an isolated spot. You can't be everywhere and watching everywhere at once. But in the spot that we were in, which kind of had an outlook on 2-3-ish like spots where you'd expect to see something, nothing. Mm-hmm. So again, we just further stumped. Starting at first light this morning, and then as the morning began to evolve, that's when things got a little different, got a little more interesting. But
it took a long time in the morning for that to happen. Tim, you got to pulling out plan C, D, E, F, G.
Going through the whole alphabet over here. Yeah,
we went to places I had never been.
Literally spots you've never been.
Yeah, I can say I've hunted out here for many years, and going back to pheasant hunting, I've been hunting out for 21 years, and we went to spots that I was like looking at the map, and I was like, that might not suck.
Yeah, let's try it.
The first place that I said that about, we drove down to, and. This is after going to every other spot that I've been to and seen deer at and shot deer at or seen people shoot deer at for a year, 5 years, 6 years of hunting out here with good deer populations. So we drive down to this random new spot and we're driving along and which one of you saw that one?
I saw that one too.
Mike.
Mike's been spotting them.
Mike's been spotting most of them, and I've been driving, so my eyes are, mostly focused on driving, but
Fortunately, right?
Yeah. We haven't ditched it yet.
Almost.
Almost twice, but yeah, we haven't done it too bad yet.
That coyote today.
That coyote on discovery this afternoon. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so yeah, we're driving along. He spots one out the side, little forky, smaller forky than the one we saw the night before. But at this point, we're like, get
It's
out
a
there,
deer, thank God.
Get out there and get a chance. So we back up. There's a couple of hills to the right of us, the CRP field that's in walk-in, which to kind of explain that a minute. So there's two types of walk-in in Colorado. There's yellow sign and white sign. And white sign means that you can only small game hunt it. And either way, the landowner's getting paid. But if they white sign it, they get paid less than if they yellow sign it. And if they yellow sign it, means they get a little extra money, but they allow big game hunting. So like everywhere we went, we made sure it had a yellow sign for these walk-in spots, because obviously that just means we don't have to ask permission, we don't have to do anything. We have a ton of permissions, we have a ton of private that my family owns or my grandma got us permission to, and all this kind of stuff. So we have a ton of ground to cover. Like, we probably
We've been
have
all over
like
the place.
8,000 acres in a 10,000 acre area that we can hunt. Like it's we have a ton of ground, and we're and I'm like, we've been everywhere.
Yeah.
So we go to the spot I've never been. It's about 6 miles from the house, so it's not like right next door, but it's not as far as some of the stuff I've driven to already. But anyways, we get out, pull back up, get Sam out the truck, and I'm like, well, we'll give him a minute to get going, and then we'll drive up and just kind of relocate that deer. And Sam gets over, and once we do, that deer sees us and whatever, and then starts hopping along instead of walking along. And of course,
Well, not only that, but remember, he covered, before we even seen him, he had cut that distance and a half that we had left him to where Sam was going to try and intercept him.
Yeah, and I knew he was coming our way, and it'd be quick. But yeah, we lucked out in that, like, he hadn't come too fast, but he's moving good. And then once he saw us, he double timed it, and so we're like, crap. So we backed up and tried to relocate Sam, and of course we couldn't tell him what happened, because you're trying to text him and he's gonna miss the deer running by him. So you can take over from there.
Well, I mean, yeah, y'all dropped me off, and I knew which way the deer was walking at first. Initially, so I was trying to use the terrain to try and get in front of him. And first time I saw him, he was kind of angling away from me at a hop, muley, 120, 140 yards away from me or something like that. And he tops this hill, and I'm like, well, I'm at least going to go to that hill and see if I can see him, see where he went from there. So I go to that hill, and I spot him just grazing on the next hill over. I think I ranged him at 186 when he was over there. So I'm kind of watching him, trying to see which way he's going to go, and he starts mingling to my right, kind of back to the northwest. So I start going back the way I came, trying to circle around, get in front of him. And I forget I think he did see me move at one point, and that's kind of what stopped me from continuing my roll there. So I stopped, he's looking at me, and then he just starts walking toward me. And he's a young deer, and you've told me how curious these mule deer are and everything. So he's just walking toward me, and I'm like, well, shoot, if this deer's just going to walk right up to me, I mean, I guess I'll shoot it. Like, he's not a big buck at all. He, not even a medium buck really, but
he was little. I mean,
he's probably 1.5. Yeah,
he was a year and a half old. That was his first rack.
But I mean, he's like walking right up to me, and the thing that made this stalk or pursuit, however you want to call it, unsuccessful was the fact that he wasn't in front of me, like to the west of me. So the morning sun was behind me, but then he changed his path and he started coming back around me. So by the time he got around here on a trail where he was in range, like I ranged the trail that he's walking at 54 yards.
Yeah.
So well within bow range for me. By the time he gets around there, the sun is now, he's in between me and the sun, so I'm lit up like a Christmas tree out there in this CRP field. And he barely steps into the very first opening that I had and looks right at me, and that's all it took. And he turned and hopped off. He topped that hill that he was grazing on before, and I was just like, I'm not gonna go to that hill. I mean, young deer, he probably just topped that hill and went on about his business on the other side, but I don't know.
I don't know if your heart was in that one, honestly. It was more of a, hey, been out here 2.5 days, finally got something to, put boots on the ground. Let's just give it a shot.
And that's kind of what I told y'all. And then, I mean, I was excited when I got in the truck because I was like, that was cool. Like that deer, even though I didn't have a shot opportunity, that deer was in bow range. Like it worked, but it didn't work, kind of deal. It was just, it felt good to.
Well, especially after everything we've seen out here.
Yeah, it felt good to
It
get
look like it's going to be easy.
Yeah, like you said, get the blood flowing and just, I don't know, have an encounter and experience a little bit of something. It felt good. So that was like it ended up being like the preseason to the regular season coming up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So did we see any other deer after
No.
him this morning? I don't think we did.
No,
we?
well, yeah, we've seen one more.
Well, yeah. Until then.
Yeah. No, we didn't know because remember, Tim, we went and looked more around and it was all a bust.
Yeah, I can say that. So that was about, you got back in the truck and I said about 8:15, maybe 8:20.
Yeah.
And we went and drove around for a long time.
Hour and a half. Yeah.
I think say it was the 9:59. I'm like 200 yards from the house on the coming up a private road that we have most of the land on the one side of it on the right side the way we were driving. We looked through all that and then I'm like, guys, we're gonna do one more lap and we're gonna go home. And I can just feel them like, what are we gonna
Dude, there's no way.
I could feel this like, dude, I want to go get some breakfast. Like, screw
We didn't
that.
say a word, but I swear to God that me and Sam could see each other, but we couldn't.
Yeah.
I could see the back of his head, and I felt like he was thinking the same thing I was.
It was just, I mean, it'd been a long morning. We had that encounter, but then we were...
Nothing.
and
Not a deer before that, not a deer after that.
Yeah.
And we had gotten up out there, I think we were out.
We were
at
set
one
up at
point
like
about
6.
This was our earliest
6
morning
or
we've
just
had so
before
far.
6, or right around 6. And like I said, so it's been 4 hours at this point. I'm like, we're going to do one more lap. It's going to take 5 minutes. Deal with it, guys.
Yeah. I remember you saying, you were like, look...
We didn't even say anything, Sam.
Well, no, we didn't say
You
anything.
and I didn't say anything, but he was defending his decision.
I know. It was obvious Tim could sense it because Tim was like, look, even if we go back to the house, you all may not wonder, but I'm going to wonder. So
Yeah.
we're going to do another lap.
and he told us how many times I've seen so many deer on their feet at 10.
Yeah.
He kept saying, I've seen all these deer on their feet at 10.
Yeah. What you said you've shot a buck out here. That one? Yeah, that
guy,
one.
That guy, I saw him at like 10:10 and shot him 10:12. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's common. We'll show which buck that is in a minute, but yeah, yeah. So it's common out here for deer to either stand up in their beds or be feeding or whatever, screwing around, post 10 o'clock, which is nuts for you guys, but that's the way it works out here. And so, anyways, we kind of the section we're on is our home section. So, like I said, the house is just to the east. The part we pull, that's the bottom, is a CRP field. The middle of this section is a wheat stubble field, and the north piece is what we call the North CRP, and it's a really big CRP field. And so we go past the South CRP, nothing. Go past the stubble, nothing. Then
Yeah. So then we pull up to the North CRP, and we weren't very far past the stubble, and we were a couple hundred yards or so past that stubble, just getting to looking into that north field. Everybody's chatting it up. And next thing you know, I look over, and on this little rise, I'm like, well, there's a deer.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said there's a deer, Sam, yeah, I see it. And I'm like, pretty sure it's a buck. Pulled the binos up. I'm like, yep, that's a buck. Not only is it a buck, but it's the biggest one we've seen by a long shot.
Yeah. And Tim slowed down, but it was like right before we got to a stop. He kept going, and I'm glad you did, because we probably would have blown that deer out of there if we had just stopped completely. Slowing down as much as we did already kind of made him a little uneasy at first. He calmed down pretty quick, but yeah.
He was quite a ways off the road.
Yeah, but I mean, he was watching us, right?
Yeah, he seen us. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Tim just kept on cruising, and we went down, turned around, got in a spot where we could look back from the north, kind of the northwest, looking back at him and trying to find him in the field. And
Which we found him.
yeah, we found him.
Yeah,
Remember, I picked him up pretty quick.
Mr. Eagle Eye over here.
It didn't take long to find him, and then so then we started debating on the plan. And to give everybody an idea,
We were all kind of arguing over that.
We
We were kind of
fighting
throwing
it,
our
and
own
I
little
was-
ideas out.
Well, but I mean, in everybody's defense on that too, like it's not an ideal spot. He's in a little bottom. We have a kind of a west/northwestish
It was a
wind.
west northwest. Yep.
So the wind is blowing from us to him where we're at right now, and the opposite side is uphill from him, but he's facing that way, and so. And he's out in the freaking middle of the field.
Middle of the CRP,
it's just like, how do we make a move on this dude? That's what all the debate came from. We're just trying to figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah, and basically he's in like a 4 foot tall bushland. Like everything there is like 3 to 4 foot tall.
Yeah.
Some of it's a little bit less, but your shot window, especially if he's laying down, is like 8 feet. If he's standing up and you're standing up at full height, like. Maybe you can shoot over the stuff, maybe not, just depending on exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And so we're debating, and luckily, like I said, right here we own everything like north to south for the whole mile. So it's like we can do a lot of moving around and stuff here. And on the east edge of this field, there's a set of evergreen trees that we actually walked the day before, 2 days before.
Yeah, day before. I'm pretty sure
we had
that
walked
morning.
it. And it's also the same place we put Sam that night before when we saw those other deer.
This is the CRP field I was watching that night where this buck is.
Well, we started the morning out right there.
Yeah, and we were looking at it in
We
the
were
morning.
a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile from there that morning.
Well, and you
at first
and
daylight.
you had been telling us ever since we got here that's like the CRP field to find
especially
deer
for
in.
muleys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the best fields for muleys. Probably not always the biggest ones, but there's always a few in there, and they just lay in there all day long until you bump them or until they stand up to go do something, and that's
Well, that was what, third time we went by that field that morning?
at least.
Yeah.
And we had stared at it for like 35 minutes when the sun came up.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have been able to
nothing,
see the
not
spot
a
where we
deer.
were, but where he was from where we were. But I mean, we'd been looking at it and
Well, we
driving
also
around
drove
it.
by there shortly thereafter.
We drove by it twice that morning, before that, and then a third time and later on. Anyways, so we make the plan, and so I'm basically saying we should just back up because we can just flip around, drive all the way around. I can drop Sam like 500 yards south of here. He can sneak up the trees and come around. Go from that. They're like, well, we have no way to figure out how far into the field he is to direct him, and so we settle on just pulling forward to figure out how far off the road he is, and then going and driving through the south end of the stubble and dropping him off, and so he can run. And there's a gap in the tree row right at the south end of that stubble where he could sneak across, come up that, and the deer would have no idea because there's 3 rows of evergreens 15 feet wide for him to get through to see him, and you never see or smell or anything. So we do that, and we get probably 50 yards like vertically from him, like east, and then he starts not running, but he moves a bit, like with a little bit of pace to him, and I'm just like, crap, we just bumped this dude. We're not going to re-find him. So I was like, well, we're just going to stick to the plan. I told Sam, get up to the corner, get up there. We'll drive back around to where we just were, me and Mike, and we'll glass him. We'll find him. We'll call you unless he runs to you, and then obviously just shoot him and dump him. And then we'll go from there.
Just easy.
Yeah.
That's that rifle mentality.
Yeah, just shoot him and dump him.
Just dump him, dude.
That's what you got to do. Just dump him at 200 yards. No big deal.
No big deal. Aim higher.
Yeah, just lob that arrow on him. It's okay. You'll hit him in the head. It's fine. No big deal.
In the head.
No worries. Just drop it.
Just Fred Bear
Just
him.
drop it in the eyeball. But so we get him dropped off, get around. We get we got to drive the mile.
About a 5-minute loop, right?
Yeah, it's a mile. Half a mile down to the next road, a mile, and then another like quarter to the corner where we're sitting. We get there, and it takes us 3-5 minutes to find
It took me a little longer that time to pick him up. I remember
he had moved into a much better spot.
for him, and I think it ended up being better for Sam.
Yeah, I would say definitely better to sneak on because he was in a much more easy to describe spot. He was farther from the road, which helped because then it was less distractions for like whenever cars drove by or whatever. And so, like, at this point, it's about 10:20, 10:25. Like I said, we found him at 10:01, literally on the spot. And I just kind of chuckled when we saw that because I was like, 10 o'clock? I told you guys.
Yeah.
I told you.
And so, anyways, so we text Sam, hey, go around to the other side of the trees. We'll call you and figure out and let you know our plan. So, basically, we had it where in the town in Nebraska that's the closest set of towns, and it's a baby town at that. To us is Venango, and it's basically 2 sets of grain elevators, a bar, and like one other store. It ain't a town. It just exists. It's not even a gas station. So we set up, and he lines up like perfectly even between 2 of the grain elevators from Mike and I. Like, so there's a perfect landmark for us to direct Sam. We're like, hey, walk down here, cut across into the stubble about 200 yards out. When you get to we'll tell you when you get to where we can see you, and you'll just line where we're lined up, where you'll just walk straight at the truck, and he'll be right in front of you.
Yeah, because it's a gradual incline, like a slope, so I'm uphill from this deer, even though I'm in the next field over in the wheat stubble. So from where I'm at, looking back at you guys, I can see the truck. So to your point, from my perspective, easy landmark, and that's kind of, before you guys even mentioned it to me, that's like I was trying to figure out on my end, like how am I going to know I'm going toward this deer? I'm like, well, if they can line me up with the truck, then that'd be great. And about that time is when Tim's like, hey, this is what we're going to do. So
so we line them up and get them walked out, and then it's probably been 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You hauled down those trees, which I was impressed. I was like, dang, he's moving some, and you somehow snuck through them, which nobody ever does. I don't know how you found that hole.
They're thick.
But those things are thick, and like I don't even tell my kids to go through those things, and they're 5 years old. Like they can't fit. So I don't know what happened there, but he can tell us later.
He's got a secret little passage.
He might have jumped over the top. Who knows?
He was pretty juiced up.
Firefighter man jumping or something, But so we get them lined up and say, "Hey, come this way." So when you get to the CRP, you need to slow down and get low. And so then there's this red bush stuff that you'll see that he's right in that. And so when you start seeing that stuff, you need to go about half speed, quarter speed, and just stay really low and get in on him and find him. I said, "We'll get you as close as we can." But we know where he's at right now. But if he moves or whatever, we might be in trouble. And then, is that when he laid down? Or was it a little bit later, but in this, Sam started coming and then...
Well, he laid down before Sam hit the CRP, yeah. I think Sam was still out in the stubble.
Yeah.
About halfway through the stubble field, and all of a sudden, I was the one kind of keeping an eye on the deer. You were keeping an eye on Sam. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't see him.
Yeah.
He went into that red tall grass, and he didn't come out. I'm like, he had to have laid down. Tim's like, you're sure he didn't have his head down and walk? I'm like, I swear he didn't come out of there.
Yeah. And then it gave everybody an idea. It's like there's enough between the bushes and like the kind of valley, except not really a valley, but
just like
downhill he's in, low spot. Like if he were to just duck his head, he could have walked out of there. We'd never see his body.
It's crazy to me, just these CRP fields. Like you look at them from the road, and it just looks like a field of mixed and red and strange looking grasses. Sometimes I mean that's what it looks like. An overgrown field at times, is what can easily pass for. And you go out there and you find trails, you find bedding areas, and the grass is so thick and so tall. In some places it's like these
even
deer,
after 8 inches of snow.
Yeah, these deer can hide so well. You told me they can hide so well, and I believed you, but even then I still didn't understand how well these deer can hide.
Well, no, because as you're driving by, Tim's telling us all this stuff, right? We got to take his word for it. He's the one that's been hunting this for years. Me and Sam are looking at each other thinking, I don't know, is there a rabbit out there? Is there a pheasant out there? Because that's about all the cover it looks like.
Yeah.
It don't look like deer cover.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, you get down in it.
Yeah.
And then you realize.
And like that first stalk I told you on that little forky, I walked across 2 bedding areas just getting out there the short distance that I covered. And it's like, holy cow, they really, they just hunker down out here. And then you drive past any CRP field, and it's like, well, golly, how many deer are just sitting there in front of me, and I have no idea where they are, but by golly, they're in that little mile square or whatever it is, So, but anyway, y'all are guiding me in. We're on the phone.
Yeah,
glad we had cell service
for a little bit. Yeah, we were on until you got up to the CRP.
Yeah, I think I was about probably 100, 150 yards into the stubble, and I think that's when I told you I was like, hey, I'm, if something seems weird, I'll call y'all, when I get to the CRP, or just text me or call me if he moves. Because from the time y'all dropped me off to this point, I haven't seen the deer.
Yeah.
I have no idea where this deer is.
Yeah, now we're at 45 minutes since we dropped. Probably 30,
at least 45, yeah.
I can say probably at least 30 since we dropped him off.
Yeah.
45 since we laid eyes on him.
I hadn't seen this deer, and I was okay with that. It was, if y'all had not seen him, I'd be like, we're wasting our time. But y'all had told me, yeah, we can see him. And the fact that I couldn't see him, or whenever I moved, y'all said he had no reaction. I was like, okay, I'm 100% cool with that. That means he can't see me, and whatever I'm doing right now, I can do it freely. So yeah, I was moving at that point. So y'all brought me into the stubble and kind of tried to line me up with the truck as far as where he's going, and it wasn't far after I got into the CRP that it was like, man, I got to get low at this point. So,
and that was kind of what it was too. It was, hey, get you up to the edge of that CRP. This is where we're, like you said, line up with the truck.
Yeah.
If he moves, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
But once you got to that CRP, if he moves, you were going to see him.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how we thought. Even with it being that thick, the antlers above the grass, you were a little higher.
Yeah.
Than him. You was kind of coming down that little valley.
Yeah.
But yeah, we, like you said, we communicated one last time on the phone, probably 150 yards from the CRP. How far was he in the CRP then? From
200.
So yeah, 350, 400 yards from where he was actually laying was the last phone communication via call that we had. And then you got down in the CRP, and then what happened after that?
Man, y'all had told me it looks like he's in this red, I think y'all described it as like a bowl. Looks like he's in this little red bowl somewhere, and it's
from our vantage point.
It's right in between you and the truck, and I was trying to, as I was getting closer, y'all sent me a couple texts to either bump me over to the left a little bit.
Yeah, you started going a little right there, and we were like, I don't know if that's right where he wants to be or not. And it didn't end up being a wrong play, but we were just like, man, if he gets too far one way or the other.
No, it worked out is what it did. But y'all bumped me over a little bit more to the left at one point, because there was, from my perspective, there's like two things that look the same as far as the red bowl, what it could be from how I'm looking at it. And so I'm going toward one. You're like, hey, you need to go more left. I'm like, okay, well, he's in that one then.
Okay.
It kind of narrowed it down for me. But I'm crawling, like hands and knees, crawl a couple yards, scoop my bow up, crawl a couple yards, scoop my bow up.
We could see it.
Yeah, to interject for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Y'all's perspective too.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam's got this black hat on, and that's about all we can see. It luckily his camo's crushing it.
Hoot camo for the win.
It was literally like, and this is not what that camo's designed for. So we're not trying to feel like it's the best for this pattern, but it worked great for where we were. But yeah, we're just so thankful you had that black hat on so we could find you.
Yeah, that was,
because if you didn't have that, we would have been. I don't know if we could have helped you at all.
It would have been yeah. I mean, the only time that we saw him out of there was when he was still standing up when he first entered the CRP. That's it.
You can say either when he stood up a couple times.
Well, yeah, when he would stand up a couple times, yeah.
But like either than that, if it wasn't that, like we saw his black hat, we'd see his, and it would like a bush would move and be like, "There's his hat. That's where he is." Like, the wind would blow a bush, and that's how we knew where he was. And we're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, so I mean, y'all are watching me, and we briefly mentioned, later after the fact, talked about depth perception.
Oh God, that was seriously screwing with us.
Because I remember that being the perspective from a Montana stalk that I had too, where a couple guys were watching me. They mentioned the same thing, like it looked like you were right on top of him. I was like, no, I was 100 yards from him, But yeah, it's tricky at that distance for sure. But no, I'm crawling and creeping in, and then just at one point after I move, like every time I move, I'm looking up before I move again. And then, so I move and then I look up, and now I can see him. That's when I guess he stood back up.
Yeah, he just stood up. I mean, we thought you bumped him.
And that's what I thought
we
too.
thought you either bumped him, or I was like, I think he's getting ready to go get some food. Was what my other thought was.
Yeah, we couldn't
one of
figure
two
out
things.
what was going
He's
on.
either going to go get some food, or you bumped him, and he's about to be over.
Yeah, so he stood up, but all I can see, like he's in the middle of that red grass, that patch, and that grass, like it's like chest high, just about. Like it's tall, thick stuff.
It's at least 5 foot tall, yeah.
And all I can see is his ears and his antlers, but I can see it through the grass, and so I stop. I'm like, crap, he heard me, because it's noisy out there with the wind blowing. Like the grass is loud.
We got a good breeze going.
Yeah, and I was grateful for it because it was in my favor, and it was definitely covering my sound. Because the whole time, like every time you crawl, you're trying to be as quiet as you can, but you're like, golly, I'm making so much noise. But to him, he, especially being downwind, he can't hear that. And I thought for sure, I was like, man, I had to bump him. But him in that, he never moved. He's just turned his head and looking around. He's not really looking at me exclusively.
Yeah, he looked a little bit everywhere.
So and I'm trying to figure out how far he is, but I can't range into that red grass. But off to my left, there's this little low spot where it's just low little brown grass over there, and it backs up to more red grass. And I'm looking at him and looking at that, and I'm like, man, that wall of red grass farther to my left is about even with how far he is. So I just started using that as my reference for my range. And I ranged that grass, he's at 62 yards. I'm like, all right, he's about 62 yards, I'm guessing. And so I'm starting to adjust my sight and everything, and I'm thinking, man, if he walks left or right, I'm going to have a very fast, very narrow window to maybe shoot an arrow at this buck. But he doesn't. He's just standing there.
Yeah.
And that was for
a long time.
Over 10 minutes.
At least 10
He's
minutes.
just looking around, and we can see his ears and his antlers, depending on which way he's looking. And he just keeps, like, looking. So, Sam, you were west of him, if I remember right.
He was
west
southwest.
and a little bit south of him. And he just keeps
at least
looking.
from our angle,
yeah. From our angle anyways, which, of course, depth was stupid. But he keeps looking, like, almost straight south, almost straight west. Occasionally look like northwest towards us, but usually...
It was almost always some kind of south.
Usually like within this, like, 95, 100-degree angle south, kind of looking, like, basically, like, where you would at least be in, like, most of his peripheral vision, if not into his real vision the whole time.
Yeah.
And we're just like, dude,
that's what we were worried about.
We're just like, well, that camo's gonna either make you break you right here. You're just gonna lay really still. And you were on from our side. It looked like you were just on this like hillside.
Yeah.
Just like laying out like this.
It felt freaking flat, dude. It felt so freaking flat.
There was a lot of hill there that you, at least from our
viewpoint,
where it may have been farther back from you and just like made it look like you were on it, but there was a good probably 25 foot hill there that you were on the side of, maybe halfway up, and it got a lot more bare in this one area you kept hanging out, especially then, and it was like really thick above you, below you, to the left of you, and to the right of you, but like you were in this like 8 foot circle patch of just like really bare comparatively
from our point of view.
And like your head and about like mid back was in this patch, and the rest of you was in the stuff. And it looked like you kind of wiggled down a little bit. It would drop to like just your head or just your head and shoulders, and back to like head, shoulders, and chest into this patch for at least 10 minutes.
Oh, easily.
Might have been 15. It was a long time, and me and Mike just kept. Our backs were hurting, so I'm like, "Hey,
our shoulders,
you gotta,
with the
like,
binos."
We keep taking turns, like, Mike, you gotta watch for a minute, and so I can stretch out my back and shoulders, and
the real work's happening in the truck.
The real work's happening with our binoculars, and it's like, you know, we're like, thank goodness I got good binoculars because it just made it so much easier. But it was like, man, this is getting real old. I put the window down. I'm leaning out the window to make it easier on my arms, and I'm just like, you know, it's getting tired. We're getting tired just sitting here watching. And at this point, it's probably been an hour, maybe a little over an hour.
Over an hour.
Oh, I'd say
yeah, it's
over
probably
an
about an hour, maybe hour 15. It's probably about 11:15, and we're just like, if the deer lays down, Sam's got a shot. If not, he's gonna have to just snap shoot this thing. And from us, it looked like it might have been. We kept saying between 35 and 45
30
yards.
and 40 yards. Yeah, 35, 45. I mean, it looked so much closer than what you said.
And which, honestly, if you said it was 62, like 45 is not that far off.
No.
Especially like we were probably, we went back and forth on how far we were, but
we were far.
I think we were about a quarter mile from them.
We were far enough that we weren't able to pull the video camera out because we knew there's no, like...
There's no way the lens...
we would have had to... It would have been one of those videos where, like, we had to edit and circle and then say, this is where Sam's at.
That little brown dot in the camera screen.
That black
Sam.
dot is Sam. And
see, that's his hat.
And this this reflection you see is the deer. But so we didn't do that. So we are sorry there's no video. But
I wish we could have.
If we could have had
a phone scope
or something, it would have been incredible. Because I mean, we got a show,
dude. Yeah, that was the best show I've seen.
Any TV show, hunting stalking show we've ever. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So,
but so we're from our point of view, like he's saying, like I'm ready for you to throw a rock at him, maybe
stab
a slingshot
him with a knife, yeah.
And
we'll talk about that in a minute.
But yeah, like we're watching this stare down for forever, and all of a sudden the deer just lays down.
Yeah.
So then me and Tim were like, okay. That Tim was like really confident once he laid down, like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And we're keeping an eye on the phone because, you know, we're trying to keep line of communication open with Sam. All of a sudden, the phone goes off. And he goes, is that Sam? Yeah, it is. He's asking, where did the deer go? Did he lay down? What happened?
So all it was is he's standing up, and we've gone 10, 15 minutes now without this deer moving. And by now I've looked at him through the grass. I'm like, he may be turning in my direction, but he is not looking at me. And so I got real low, and I'm like, I'm going to keep going. And so I got real low, and I kept going, and the first time I moved, that's when I stopped, I got back up, I looked, and I couldn't find him. And I'm like, man, if he walked left or right, I would have seen him. And so that's when I sent y'all a text like, hey, can y'all see him, or where'd he go? I forget exactly what I said, but it was like, and y'all were able to confirm for me that he bedded back down. And I think my reply was perfect.
Yeah, so you said, has he moved? I text back right away, he bedded. I said he took a step east, then laid down. Sam says, perfect. I pause for a second. I say, you've got this.
Yeah.
Exclamation point. I look over at Tim. I said, I just want to give him that little confidence boost.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw that text before I kept going, but
I was hoping you did, because I was like, you know, there's something to be said about when somebody believes in you.
yeah.
And Tim had a lot of faith in you. I didn't necessarily.
I didn't. Sorry.
I didn't necessarily.
For the next guy to come do this on Sam. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that for a bit.
So I didn't necessarily not have faith in you, but I've blown and had so many failed stalks on mule deer that I knew that this was not a high odds.
Yeah, you knew the low percentage success.
Yes, I knew
of
this was
situation.
a 25% chance
Yeah.
that you were even going to get a shot.
Yeah.
And so, but anytime somebody helps you out with the confidence, so yeah, that was our last communication was hey, you've got this. And from there, you went to work, and why don't you tell us what happened? What's that?
We had one more later. We'll get to that when it comes up.
Yeah, but that was
Way later.
Yeah. But so we send that last text out, you've got this, fist pump basically. And that's when you put the magic on. Tell us what'd you do after that? 62 yards, he beds down.
So he beds down, and so I'm looking at it, and I got about probably 20 yards or so to the red grass that he has bedded into the edge of it. And so that's my goal. Like, I crawl a little bit, look, nope, don't see him, crawl a little bit, just keep on doing that, work my way up to that grass. And again, I range that spot to my left that in reference is relatively close, just so I know kind of where to set my pin. And I'm like, if he stands up and I feel like he's farther or closer, I'll adjust just based on where I hold from that point. But so I ranged that, and I forget if it was like 39 or 40 or something like that.
You said 38.
Yeah, 38, something like that. And so at that point, I'm like,
screw it.
I'm gonna shoot this deer. So I come to full draw, and I stand completely up, and I can't see him anywhere. And I just start like grunting or whatever you want to call it, screaming at just over and over and over
Plus
again.
it's windy.
And it's windy, yes. But nothing is happening. Nothing is standing up. Nothing's moving. And I keep doing it, and nothing. I'm like, okay. I let down. I sit back down. I'm like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're in the truck like,
Tell them what we're saying. Yeah.
we can't tell them what we were saying.
Tell them the PG
we just
version.
kept saying shoot it and some other words.
Yeah.
It's very choice.
Yes.
And then
you can fill in the blank.
We text. Isn't that what we texted? We're like, do you want us to honk the horn?
No, that was earlier.
That was earlier.
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
That was when he was standing there at 62.
Yeah, that's
but
when he was standing for so long.
I was gonna try to turn his eyes to us at that point when he was standing up forever, just to see if you could get a shot. Because to us, like I said, it looked like it was like 40-ish.
Yeah.
And we were both thinking this is slam dunk if we can get that deer to turn the right way.
But yeah, when he went to full draw though, remember I was watching and you were taking a break.
Yeah, I was taking a break,
and I'm like, oh my god, he's coming to full draw.
And I pull him up. And what was weird is when I pull my binoculars up, it just looks like his bow's like this.
Like shooting straight down.
Like, yeah, basically.
Dude, like 10
really?
yards.
Like
yeah, it
looking
looks
down,
like you're shooting out of a tree stand.
Yeah, it would look like you're about to drop a rock on something. I was like, what? And so we're like, okay. And then you let down and get down, and we're like, did he really just not see it? Like, was the deer not there?
Can y'all see the deer bedded?
No.
Okay.
We could never see him when he was bedded.
Right, that's what I thought.
We couldn't see him bedded either, of course, but we had to, I mean, basically there are these two little, I wish I knew what they actually were, but they're those
They were just some kind of weeds that
weed with
stuck out.
Basically, they were sticks with these like little berry-looking things. They weren't berries; they're like prickly, nasty things on top. And there were two of them. And at this point, there's like we think the deer is by the right
just
one.
to the right side of the right one. Yeah.
And basically, when Sam was close in the distance, I had kept saying, "There's this grass, this other thing. There's this green bush." And then there was this little yellow bush right for it. I said, Sam needs to get to that green bush and be able to put his bow through that yellow bush to be able to shoot this deer.
Yeah.
From where we thought it was. And Mike's like, no, he doesn't. He has to get close. I said, trust me. How thick that is in there, he absolutely has to get to that point before he can shoot this deer. And Sam gets like, I think
he went past it.
Yeah, he had to go past there.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that deer's not where we thought it was.
No. He remember when he after he came to full draw, he moved a lot.
Yeah,
and in a short, like you moved the furthest in the shortest amount of time since like you hunkered.
Yeah, since you were booking.
And we were just like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah. Well,
because we were like, why is he all of a sudden? Now it's like he's covering all this ground really quickly, where before you're crawling, and we're like, did we miss something? Did this deer slip out of here somehow?
Did this deer like crawl out of here? I've never
literally
seen a deer
crawl out.
Yeah, we've never seen a deer crawl before.
No, so I got back down and I was like, shoot, I guess I'll go farther. I guess I'll get closer.
But you had to have known approximately where he was at.
I knew roughly where he was
within
at.
a few yards.
So I went a little bit farther on my knees, and then that's when I pretty much just stood up and like just at the ready just started creeping in there just a little bit because I'm
watching.
Just one slow step at a time because I'm like, any step now that deer's going to stand up in front of me. I know he is. And finally I get to a point I'm just thinking, I'm like he could be right there. Like, yeah. I don't know where he is. And I was like, I have to find him before I do anything else. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I pull my binos out and I'm just like right in front of me. I'm just scanning the grass, trying to find anything. And I like everything's blowing, everything's flickering, the light colored grass. And I'm like, oh, nope, that's not an antler. Oh, nope, that's not an antler. And then finally it was kind of oriented a little bit to my left. Finally, I see his frame. He's bedded. But I see his frame in the grass, and I'm like, okay, I found him. He's not far. And again, I lean over, and I range the other spot, 28. Okay, adjust my sight. And now I'm like, okay, what direction is he facing? Because if I have the opportunity to know that before he stands up, I want to.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm studying him. I'm just studying that frame, just trying to figure out with his ears or anything. And finally, I catch enough light color on that ear. I'm like, that ear, that has to be the front of it, not the back of it. That he's got to be facing me right now.
Which he had been facing that way the whole time.
And he had, but I was
had the wind at his back.
Yeah, I was like, if this deer still bedded, hadn't seen me, like, I want every bit of information I can get before I try to stand this thing up. And then I'm like, all right, this is it. Like, I know I can see him. I know where he's going to stand up. Let's roll. Let's roll here. And so I came to full draw, and again, watching him, and I see his butt start to come up, and I'm like, here we go. And he stands up. I put that green pin on him, and hard quartering to me, I put it on that shoulder, angling back into his vitals, and let it fly. I heard the smack. He took off. I could see my arrow sticking out of him. It was buried pretty decent in there, and he takes off running. And I probably 80, 100 yards out there, he stops, kind of wobbles. I'm like, please go down, please go down, please go down, please go down. And then I see his head take a dive. I honestly didn't even see the rest of him hit the ground. I was so freaking excited at that point.
Let's see what happened was, at that point, he actually didn't go down right away. He went about 10 more yards, then went down.
Really?
Yeah.
And I didn't see that either.
Yeah, so they're both, and I know how hard it is to find deer out in this field because, like, my brother's ex-wife shot one out there, and it took like 4 hours with 2 quads and 2 gators of people driving around in there to get the deer finally stand up. And then it finally did and ran off. And then my dad actually like had to follow it for a while with an ATV so somebody could get a license and a gun and go shoot this thing to finish it off. And he followed it for half mile before they finally like got it cornered. Well, whatever. But
I'm
like watching the deer, and I'm on this deer, and then Mike starts shaking me, and I'm like, not yet, not till we get to this deer, not till Sam goes and touches that deer. Do not touch me. I want to. And he gets me all shaken up, and I can't find the hole again. And so I'm like, crap, we need to get out there right now. Go get Sam. And like at first, when that deer first got up and ran, we were super worried that like he didn't get a shot,
dude.
We couldn't tell because like
it happened so fast.
I mean,
you're at full draw.
Sam's at full draw. Deer gets up less than 2 seconds. The deer's on the move, running, full speed.
Like
1 second.
I know that it was
less than
just
2 for sure.
I know that it was just that split second that he had a shot, and I like before he stood up, I'm like, okay, the second all 4 legs are up, I need to be releasing an arrow. And I knew that going into it. And I did, but like playing it back in my head, it's like
it was bang bang.
It's like all in slow motion in my head. I had no concept of time. I have these snapshots in my mind at these different stages, and I don't even know how long or short it was.
Dude, from our point of view, I mean, it was about as much time as a guy could do to just squeeze the trigger on that bow from the time that he took off running, from the time that he stood up. And me and Tim looked, did he get it? And then all of a sudden we look over and Sam throws both them arms in the air with that bow as high and as proud as he could ever do, dude. And I'm just like, yeah. I'm screaming. Tim's hooting a little bit, but not much. He's mostly on them binos.
Deer, yeah.
And I'm, he got it. He got it. I'm watching with the binos. I see him hit the ground the first time, like Tim says. It's over.
Yeah.
It's done. And then Tim's like, no, he got back up. I don't give a crap. Let's go get Sam, dude. I'm like, let's go. Let's go. Start this truck. Let's go, baby. Let's go. He's like, let's go to the deer. I'm like, no, screw that. We're going to see Sam. And so finally I get Tim going because he's had bad experiences out there with recovery. I know that. I don't care. I just watch the deer drop. I just watch the deer drop. I want to go celebrate with Sam. I want to fist pump. I want to high five. I want to hug, jump around, act like schoolgirls out there in this CRP field.
And we did.
And we did. I know I saw a couple trucks drive by, and they're probably wondering, what in the world are those guys doing?
I didn't even think of that, man.
Why are there 3 dudes out here in this field
jumping around dancing?
But, hey, it was all worth it, man.
It was so great.
No, the recovery went well. I went back basically to where I was standing when I shot and where I had last had eyes, and you'd already darted out there on foot.
Oh, I was
once we got out there, I went to where you thought the deer was and looked around, and at first I thought I found your arrow, but then I just found a vein that had snapped off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, I was like, we need to find this deer. Sam, go to where you shot it from and direct Mike out there, and let's get rolling, because if he's not there, we're going to have to do some work.
Yeah.
Because I said, even if he's bleeding good, we're not.
Which he didn't.
Which he didn't bleed at all. If he hadn't been where if he hadn't stayed down, we would have never found him probably. But I was like, if he's not bleeding good, I mean, even if he is out there, like you can't see blood on that stuff, even with the fresh snow. Like
there was some stretches where it was like you should have been able to find if it was good blood, but most of it no.
Yeah. It's really tough in that CRP to find blood, no matter what. I mean, I've had deer I've shot and like half their blood went out in the first 5 feet, and you don't even notice it in there. Like it's hard. So I'm like, okay, let's get this found. You go out and running around, you're too far, can't find it. So I start driving up there.
Which then you drove a little bit too far and too much to the east.
Yeah, well, I drove wide on purpose. I didn't want to run it over.
Well, and
that's what I was also
in his defense too. Like I was so excited. I was trying to remember exactly where I saw him, and the landmark that I was going off of was a little bit too far to the east from where he was laying. Mm-hmm. And I think I called you. Yeah, you
I'm
called.
I'm like, dude, there's no way he went this far, right?
Yeah,
you're like, no, I don't
you
think
called
he
me.
did.
You started coming back, and then you started going back east, like
west. Yes, heading west towards the road.
Yeah. So you came back, and
then all of a sudden there he was.
Yeah,
dude.
You went from searching to just you stopped talking, and I saw your arms go.
Oh
up,
yeah, there he is,
thank
baby.
the Lord.
Yeah. And I drove over quick and
smoke shot.
Yeah,
smoke shot.
Perfect shot.
He didn't bleed a lot, but part of that was because there wasn't an exit hole. And the other part was he didn't go very far.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very unique shot. It's always in your mind, right? But I've never actually executed a shot like that on an animal before.
No.
Yeah, and after the fact, after we got back and cut it all up and everything, which we'll get to in a minute, but we realized you sliced part of the heart.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, he showed me.
About a 4-inch slice,
Yeah,
4-inch slice.
Slice through the heart.
And both lungs were
got double lung. But,
disintegrated, man.
Yeah, so it was a perfect
It
shot.
was money.
Oh, for that angling 2 shot like that, you couldn't have shot it better. I don't care what weapon.
No, I 100% happy with the shot, and yeah, it was very interesting, and I've talked about this, and it's ironic that this podcast is coming on the tail of the one that will have been published the week prior. Is Todd and I talking about both of us losing good bucks on the same day, which happened earlier this year. And I know coming out here, like, I was excited. I was like, this is something new. I've never done this before. I was pumped, but in the back of my mind, like, I don't know, when that is the last shot that you made on an animal, that's just lingering in your mind. And what's really kind of set me at ease just since today.
Since you released that arrow.
Since I released that arrow is I know for a fact, like, I remember watching my pin settle, and I remember shooting that arrow and like from the second I released it, I mean, you probably know, in your archery brain, just in those moments, it feels like it slows everything down. And I remember releasing that arrow and feeling confident, like that arrow's going where I want it to go, and then hearing that smack, seeing the arrow as he runs, and knowing that it hit where I want it to hit. It was like, man, that was so reassuring to me, just to be able to make a killer shot like that again.
Well, so I knew what happened to you in Texas with that unfortunate shot that you had taken, your last shot.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about that until you just said that. But as an archery hunter, I don't know so much. I can't speak on the rifle. Tim can. But as an archery hunter, you work so stinking hard to get a deer in range, and then when you get him in range and you miss, or you don't hit it where you intend to hit it, so you basically did miss, even if you did hit the deer.
Right.
You missed the spot. Let's put it that way. You second guess everything after that until you make a quick, clean, ethical shot on the next deer or next animal that you're pursuing. And yeah, I've been there 100% where you're at, where your mind is just completely just, for lack of better words, screwing you up.
Yeah, jacked up.
Every day, you even thinking about it, leading up to this hunt, you're probably thinking, can I get it done?
I mean, it was a thought, just like I've been going out to my back pasture and shooting 70, 80, stretching out to 100, like, and that's what's ironic too, is it's like I'm practicing at these long ranges because
I had told you to be ready at 100 and be ready to shoot 50 and under in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah, like Tim, you gave me all the information.
Well, he got the under 2 seconds.
He did good today.
But that's not where my focus was, right? And on top of that, like, I'm practicing. I think 80 was like my focus the weekend before this event happened back in Texas, and then I have a deer at half that distance, and I have to judge distance on the fly, and I won't get no need to get in the story, but I jack it up. I miss my shot, I miss my mark, and I'm thinking, man, I'm going to Colorado in 2 weeks. And I'm supposed to be able to, like, I can't even kill a deer at half the distance
at 40,
I'm expected
and I might have to shoot 100.
And now I find it just so, it's funny to me now that I'm practicing at these long ranges and I freaking kill a mule deer at 28
But that's why we do it.
So, yeah,
That's
yes,
why we do it.
It is.
Because 28, like you just said, 28, some people 28 is still far.
It is.
But when you practice like we do,
yes,
and you get that confidence, 28's a chip shot.
And like, once I got under 60, like, I had him at 62, and once I got under that, like, once I made that next move and stood up for the first time at 38, like, in my mind, I was like,
this is over.
I was like, this is a chip shot. And then you go up to 28, and you're like, I'm looking at this deer, I can see him with the naked eye, I can make out his frame right there. I'm like, this is whitetail hunting distance right here, But Yeah, I can't believe it, man. I can't freaking believe it.
Dude, the most epic way to get your first mule deer buck.
It was something. Yeah, so you could have shot any buck on the planet, like from a
In
blind.
that way, yeah.
Or like if we had done you said in the blind, you could have shot a 200-inch deer tonight, or this evening, and I don't think the story would have meant nearly as much.
Well, and we even I don't remember if you were in the room, but we said something about that at some point, because this evening we went to a family friend of yours that has some really nice mule deer mounts in his house, all from this area, just absolute studs.
All from this county, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolute stud mule deer.
I don't
And
think stud does it justice. But
no, it doesn't. These are world-class
basically
deer.
180 to 200-inch mule deer.
Monsters.
Like 10 of them.
Monsters. But I mean, that was just incredible in the first place, but we were talking about that, and then y'all saw another really good buck.
Nice buck.
Actually in the area, in the spot where we were going to put a ground
Where you
blind
were gonna be
if
tonight.
I didn't kill that deer. And I know I made the comment, I was like, man, I could have Texas style hunted out of that ground blind and shot
A potential bigger buck.
a potentially
Well, I mean, he was
buck.
bigger than the one you shot. I mean, not potential, but he was bigger. He was older. He was bigger. But it wouldn't have meant as much.
No, and the other thing,
And you'd have been by yourself.
and that's the thing. The other thing that we've all talked about and we've all said is how cool it was to all be a part of the experience. Like I value time in the woods or time in deer camp, even like when I get the text from Dad or I text him like, hey, I shot a deer, and we get to go do the recovery together, and that's cool. But that's the quote unquote together hunting that I get most of the time. But to be able to experience this with you two guys out there was unfreaking
unbelievable.
believable. And just I don't know which one of us was the most excited. Like, we were all so freaking excited
I think Mike
out there.
Was the most excited.
I mean,
I
Mike
was the most relieved, but Mike was the most excited.
Yeah.
Tim,
Well, the pressure was on Tim.
you were excited, but you were, until we had hands on that
Yeah,
deer, you
till
were
he-
still all
I was in
business
game
too.
mode,
Yeah,
that's
you
how
were
we
in game
found out.
mode, and me and Mike were ready to
You
celebrate.
guys were screwing around, and I was like, "It's time to get dudes. This is it.
we
gotta
gotta
get to
find
work.
this deer.
Once you grab him and he stays there, I'm cool. But we're not cool yet.
Yeah, we got to find him. And I mean, I was so pumped, man. But I was right there, like, in my mind. I'm like, because I think you asked me, you was like, have you told anybody yet?
Yeah.
Told your wife yet? Told Nick yet? I'm like, I told you, I was like, I'm not telling anybody until I have hands on that
And,
deer. Just again, given what's happened recently, I was like, I want hands on that
Even
buck.
though you saw him fall down.
Even though I saw him fall down.
So
I
you're-
thought I did, but
You ever heard that expression when you hear someone tell them a story and you say, I'd love to be a fly on the wall?
yeah,
Tim and I was the flies on the wall.
yeah, that's
it-
true.
Like I think one of us said earlier, it was like watching the best hunting show you've ever watched.
Yeah.
For 2 hours and 15 minutes.
2 hours.
Dude,
It was
them
absolutely-
shoulder cramps,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. So I mean, we're gonna feel.
We're going to
those.
need a massage.
I mean, we're gonna have to hit the jacuzzi tonight, I think, and stretch those out. But yeah, it was so worth it. And then back to one thing you guys said earlier about when you're bow hunting and you practice and all this stuff and you miss the shot, and when you're rifle hunting, you just blame your equipment. That's what every rifle hunter does.
The scope got knocked.
My scope's off. It's knocked, and then
Bad load.
because you just don't practice. That's the biggest the pet peeve I have for most rifle guys is you're just lazy. You maybe shoot 5 rounds a year, 10 rounds a year to make sure your rifle's still on, and so you're not. That's one thing. Like me personally, like I haven't had the time to put into bow hunt out here because there's only been 1 year where I've like seriously practiced my bow since I've had it since 2019, and that was in 2019 because we got to go to San Angelo and I got to go on that staff hunt way back then and be a part of that awesome experience. And I shot a deer then that I didn't ever find. So ever since then I'm kind of like, well, that deer ran off with a $60 arrow and blah blah blah, and made every dang excuse out there to not. Plus like just time spent out, like it took till today was day 3.
Day 3 for
Day
me.
3,
yeah.
of you being at camp, and this is the first time. Like this was the first hunt out here where I did not fill a tag, either mine or somebody else's, on the first day.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's always been rifle.
Now, archery hunting, but
yeah, it's always been rifle. So but I mean,
But y'all didn't even see nothing.
First day, we didn't have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, even with a rifle, like those 2 does we saw at dark, we had 10 minutes of light left, and they were 600 plus yards from us when you saw them. Those were not shootable does.
Right.
Like, not in that experience, not in that, regardless of your skill of the rifle, just the light and everything. It wasn't shootable.
I'm a bow guy, man. Like, I have rifles I can shoot, but I ain't shooting no 600 yard shot.
Well, even just
I'll first
even
to admit
the best guy out there, just dark wise and everything, it just wasn't an opportunity. So for me, this like was a whole new thing of like, man, these deer really, like, this snow really messed with them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that much snow, and it wasn't that cold. I mean, it's cold
it was,
for you guys.
It was cold,
like,
enough
for you,
no.
but like you know, like it's the 10 degrees, and like that's normal out here. But it definitely changed things for that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really, really incredible experience for sure. And I know, like, my dream ever since I started bow hunting has been to do something like this, to kill an animal like spot and stalk like this. And of course, as far as what animal it is, like, you always think of the big western ones, and mule deer being one of them. And I mean, this is the hunt. Like, this was the experience that I was hoping to be a part of, you know, coming out here to hunt with you. And, you know, like we've talked about this podcast, you know, you were up front about everything with me about how challenging and it certainly has been. But man, I wouldn't trade it for a ground blind hunt. I wouldn't trade it for a bigger deer. Like, and I mean, even the deer that I killed, man, like, he's freaking cool.
Dude,
like,
he's a nice buck.
I mean, I think by Texas scoring means he's got 10 scoreable points on him, but I mean, he's I guess a mainframe 3x3 is what you would call him, or 3x4.
4x3.
4x3.
If you're going by Western.
Yeah, 4x3 with some
eye guards and
with some trash and
yeah.
But I mean, he's really cool. He's got character. He broke off and would be another nice big.
Would have been another.
It's almost like he
point,
grew his G3 twice on that one on both sides and
really.
broke the one off.
And he broke one. Yeah, he broke one off, which is probably another 5-inch or whatever. Not that it's, not that you care about inches, but he's a cool buck, and like, so anyways, we finish this hunt, we get the deer, and then we take a million pictures. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Hey,
we got so many good ones, and I got a bunch of the behind the scene pictures that are just hilarious. Mike's laying down and getting down in there and taking pictures, and we get a bunch, some with all of us, and finally get the deer loaded up, and it's like 12:45 when we pull out of the field. It was close to 1 o'clock.
Close to 1, yeah.
It was 1 by the time I think we got home.
Yeah, I think it was 1 o'clock, and then we get to the house, and we're like a half mile,
we're
a
not
little over
far,
half mile. Yeah, we're in the section that my grandparents' house is in. So we get home and we come in, and Grandma's like, "What took so long?" It's like, Sam got one. She's just like in shock,
dude.
So to get Sam to come, I basically had told my dad, like, he could do this. Like, he could shoot a deer with a bow.
Tim never told me this until after the fact.
I didn't want to put this pressure on him, but I basically bet the chance that anybody else would get to come do this with a bow on Sam. And
nobody's done it before out here with the bow. I mean, and I mean, you look at the ground and everything, and the style of hunting y'all have grown up doing. It's like, this is a rifle hunt area, and like, coming here, your grandpa at the kitchen table has told me that since I've been here. Well, everybody that comes out here rifle hunts and everything. He's like, I remember he asked me one evening, he was like, "So what made you want to hunt with a bow?" I mean, like, me looking at him, like, yeah, I mean, it's obvious to me that, like, this is not what people do out here, and I get it, but maybe I'm just stubborn, or call it arrogance. I don't know what you want to call it, but when I went bow only, I went bow only. So
yeah, you didn't give yourself the chance, but yeah. So it's funny. So I basically, like I said, told my dad basically, like, he can do this, and this was back in like February when I finally got him to say cool, so I could get Sam all the info to get the tag purchased and all that, and put in for and drawn and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I was up front with him, like, you're paying $550 by the time your licenses and everything's done. And I was like, there's a good chance you're going home empty. Like, but yeah, it worked out. And And so, like, my grandparents haven't believed it. They've been telling everybody. They've been calling their friends to tell people about it. It's been pretty nuts. And
I cracked up at when Mike told me about your grandpa's conversation. Pretty much as soon as, I mean, your grandpa wanted to come out and see the buck when we got back to the house, and he told me, he was like, "Man, I want to shake your hand because I didn't think you were gonna do it with a bow."
Yeah.
It's been pretty cool. So, one neighbor drove over from away.
That was a ways away too. We drove that.
We went to his house tonight, and then a ways away to
just to come see it.
It just come say hey and see it, and he couldn't believe it either. And
all the other neighbors are asking Grandma and Grandpa to send pictures.
Yeah, all family members, and I'm getting a million family member requests for pictures too. So
wow,
it's funny for sure, and it's being celebrated bigger than my brother shot roughly a 200-inch buck out here one time, and it's being celebrated bigger than that one, guys. if that gives anybody,
sorry, Kyle.
It's okay. He can figure it out. He can shoot the next one. He already missed his chance.
He'll get
this
his
year.
bow out.
Missed a nice buck in early rifle, and then he's got another. I think he's got another tag if he wants to come out and do something, but. Yeah, it's just funny to have all that happening, and we get the deer back and gutted and everything, and then we're like, hey, we'll set my cameras back up.
Yeah.
One more little evening.
Well, Sam run to town to get ice.
Ran to town to get ice, and so Mike and I are like, well, we'll go set cameras, look, and just see what's out there, and
I got my gear ready.
Hoping we're finding some whitetails, just if nothing else, know where they are, because we haven't seen a whitetail yet. We haven't seen that many deer. But we've seen not a single whitetail.
Yeah.
And we started seeing a lot more mule deer, and they started moving and stuff and whatever. And so we drive up to the feedlot, or drive up the fence row, basically the end of where Sam kind of started his journey this morning. And get up there, put the camera up, drive back down, go to the feedlot. We
where Sam was gonna sit the ground blind tonight.
Yes, where Sam was gonna sit. We
pull in there at 4 o'clock.
In the driveway at right before 4 o'clock. Scare 2 does out of there.
That would have been what, 20, 25 yards from where the blind would have been, if that.
Yeah, he could have.
Right on top of them.
Yeah, he'd have been right on top of him. So we go hand cameras and whatever, and I don't really think of anything of it, and drive down, and we get down to a field that we have permission on. It's not one of ours, but there's a draw through it it's on the south side of the road, where the feedlot's on the north side of the road. And a lot of times deer will very commonly run from the feedlot down to this field. And we get down there, and and the sun's right in our eyes.
Oh my
gosh,
terrible,
right over the top of these trees. We couldn't see crap. But so I see some deer, and I'm like, there's a bunch there, and I saw at least 3 or 4 bodies. And we pull up and get up in there, and it's the same 2-point we saw 2x2 like we saw last night.
In that feedlot.
And 7 does, and then at least a 4x4 with brow ties buck.
Nice buck.
Yeah, mature, probably 3.5.
At least 3 to 4 year old deer.
Yeah, he's nothing, not like huge.
No monster, but just a very nice deer.
Like the Sam's that he shot is probably 2.5, a big 2.5, but he's a 2.5.
That's just the body size on that deer, man. That's crazy to me.
Sam's deer is probably 200.
200 pounds. I told y'all I've never shot a deer that big of bodied before in my life.
Because they have so much food out here, every deer is ginormous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I've tried to tell you guys that a million times, because we always, when we do deer processing, we have an awesome processor we go to in Nebraska, and we always buy hamburger equal to our hamburger beef, so we do 50-50 mix, which you can give me crap if you want, but it tastes better. It cooks better, and then the processor's happy because he gets a lot of money, and he makes it a priority where he'll, there's been times where I've called him on Halloween night. He'll come over, and one time I had a deer, he had an acadepony that morning, and we went over and called him, and he met us at the shop and directed guys, and his daughter's yelling at him to stop cutting on stuff, and took care of a deer that night. He got out of the hospital that morning. So, crazy stuff like that. He's awesome. But so anyways, we do that, and I usually have to buy 70, 75 pounds, 80 pounds of hamburger on a buck. So, we're getting 150-ish pounds of hamburger back, plus steaks and roasts.
Yeah, probably 200 pounds.
Over 200 pounds, which,
that's a lot.
That's obviously we're losing a bit of, we're doubling the hamburger, but you're still looking at 110, 120 pounds of meat,
actual
from this
venison. Yeah.
Yeah.
On top, and because dressed weight, obviously, I mean, if he's gross, They might be We've had 300-pound deer out here.
Oh, I believe
consistently.
it. I believe it.
Yeah.
So
anyway, yeah. So y'all saw that and that.
we saw
bigger
them,
buck.
and then so we go up the next turn, and there's like basically anything south of the house is more likely to be whitetail territory. Anything even with the house in north is mule deer. So it's a really easy way to like know where to look. And so this is like we're on the same road the house is on, but it's on the south side. And this draw that they're in is usually almost always whitetail. I'm like, well, if they're here, who knows? So we go up the next place, we turn, and this coyote, they must have scared it out of the draw and just hauling across this field. And we're looking at it, and of course we didn't bring a rifle or anything with us because he's bow hunting and whatever.
Just weren't even thinking about it.
So we're driving and following him, and this. I about ditched it here. I'm not paying attention.
That was one of the times where
that was the only time we had
in the ditch.
I ended up like rolling the front tires right on the edge, and we pull it back over, and we're fine. And well, we better wake up and keep going. And we do a couple more laps and look at a few other places, and end up on this one place right by where I go dove hunting. Normally, that's all in public. And Mike looks over and goes, "There's a deer over there." So I stop and we look, and he goes, "Never mind, that's just a giant coyote."
Dude, giant.
We saw two coyotes tonight, which you see them here and there out here, and there are tons of tracks, and there are a lot of coyotes. We really need to do some predator control, but especially for the pheasant numbers, it would really help. But we saw those two, and then did some more driving. Turkeys roosting in a neighbor's trees above a neighbor's house,
above the house,
being annoying, and a whole other conversation on why you don't want turkeys where there's pheasants and stuff for another time. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, we ended up seeing a couple more mule deer doe after that.
Yep, 2 more does next to the feedlot right after we drove by, eating on the growing wheat, and then we went back to the house and
we didn't end up locating any whitetails yet.
Nope.
We're gonna give that a try again tomorrow morning.
Yep. We gotta find you at least one buck.
So hopefully we'll have the first 2 archery deer kills on the Burgess family farm here this year.
Yeah. I'm hoping that way that Friday can be all about me. If I can be real, because we got to search for you. We got to either split or we're going to be in totally different areas probably. And
well, yeah, since you're going to most likely
I'm going to be north of the house. You're going to be
go
south
for
of the
the muleys.
Yeah, I'm definitely going for muleys.
Well, at the way that they're acting, it sounds like when it comes down to it, feedlot be a slam dunk if on that bigger
as long
buck
as
at
there's
least.
something that he wants to shoot.
Yeah. And like not that bigger buck. I've kind of now selfishly developed the standard out here, and he doesn't quite hit the minimum.
Well, after we've seen what gets taken out of the county, Sam.
I don't blame you. Holy
cow.
So like in my brother earlier this year on the early rifle, the second weekend of it, according to him, and he's kind of a storyteller, so who knows, but he supposedly missed a 6x6 15 times.
Was it 15 or was it 9?
15, because he had to go back and get more bullets from the house.
That's so crazy.
In a cornfield that we have access to. Of course, we got permission, but it's not ours. But so I'm still looking for that guy, because obviously I know he knows what a big deer looks like. He shot the biggest one we've ever had out here by far. Like on our place, there's been a lot of other bigger deer taken in the county and stuff. But so we'll see what happens. But I'm really optimistic now that they're finally moving, because I think tomorrow we're gonna have a lot of deer moving, and the whitetails here are very much migratory. Every one I've ever, the biggest one I killed back in 21, that's super funky and palmated. He was definitely migrating. He had a harem of does just walking across. He was walking across a growing wheat field, ran into a stubble field, and then was running for this draw where we saw these deer tonight, and shot him at like 270 in the head from the back while he was running away. And so I'm just waiting for like the migration of whitetails to come through. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow. Hopefully it's before Friday so we can get you tagged out and not worry about it. But you do have the rifle option when we get there. So I think worst case we'll be tagging out by the latest, I think Saturday for both of us. We'll see.
Well, and unlike most rifle hunters, like you said, I put 3 boxes through that 6.5 Creedmoor that I bought this summer just to make sure I was doing my due diligence.
Yeah. And that makes a big difference for sure. And like I said, like that's that's where a lot of guys really need to put in more time. Even archery guys, I'm sure, need to put in more time. But rifle guys, it's so disgusting to me when guys can't shoot. Like I was on an elk hunt a couple weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago now, but they had told us up front that I got invited late, so I kind of got late in the game, so I didn't really get to do well. It wasn't as prepared as I should have been, but plenty prepared for what I was ready for. But they had told everybody, like, expect to shoot 400, 500 yards, so sight your gun in at 300 or 400, so you don't have any drops, so you can just straight shot it. And a lot of guys didn't do that, and I didn't have time to do that for me, but mine's pretty flat. Like my 300's 8 inches, my 400's 18 inches, so it's not bad. But a lot of guys miss shots in the 400, 450, 460 range, which are tough. Don't get me wrong, that's a long shot, but I mean we didn't take a bull because of that. We took a lot of cows though, so we can't really complain. We had a good trip.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we've caught everybody up on at least our Flatland mule deer podcast, and hopefully the next one is Flatland whitetail, and we can talk about that. But either way, we'll be sure to update you guys on the outcome of the events to come, but hopefully it's through another whole podcast episode, because there's a lot of hunting left to be done.
Just I feel like tomorrow is like the first day where I'm really like, all right, let's.
I'm full-time cameraman at this point.
Yeah, so. Sam gets to sit in the back seat and look and have the camera ready to roll, where we got to be up looking around.
I'm expecting Sam to pick out all the deer like I did from the back.
The back seat might be the magic trick, because you
find my deer for me.
I think Sam's probably
there's your deer right there.
Sam's getting too many texts from people asking about
all these
sponsorships and crap.
We definitely need to get a boot sponsorship, man. Any boot companies out there listening, please, for the love of God.
Okay.
He's got duct tape.
At least one pair.
Okay, before we hang up, I got to address the duct tape, because
just at least one pair, guys.
Your wife has asked about it. That's how bad it is. And then we've had at least one of our staffers see a picture.
There might be more by now.
And my grandpa asked you about it.
Yeah, that's right. Your grandpa.
Okay, everybody's asked me about my duct tape boots.
Pulls up in a $70,000 truck.
Duct tape boots, yeah. Come on, Sam, figure this out.
Hey, money goes somewhere, not everywhere. No, I just trying to get another season out of them, and been wearing different boots down in Texas. These are the boots I needed to wear up here, and I forgot that they were a little worse for wear. So
they got the trick done today, I'd say.
They haven't come apart.
Not yet.
I'll say that.
It might be once we throw that shotgun over your shoulder and go pheasant hunting.
Hey, I put another piece of duct tape on them tonight, so we'll be good.
But yeah, if there's any boot sponsors out there listening, and you feel bad for Sam, please reach out.
This is a charity case. This is a cry for help.
We just need one pair.
We only need one pair.
That's it. Any more is a cherry on top.
Yeah, we need a pair of boots for Sam.
Just one.
Well, before I thank our listeners and give our ending spiel, thank both of you guys, because obviously Tim wouldn't have happened without your persisting invites year after year, and you run us around and doing everything for us out here. We appreciate it.
Chauffeuring and
Mike, I'm tickled to death, man, that you're out here and get to experience it with us, and then helping me with everything too. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man,
Thank you.
this has been awesome.
It's an experience I'll never forget, and like we talked about earlier, the fact that you get to just share it with people, share it with Fall Obsession family is just it's unbelievable. And another even if I didn't kill anything, if none of us kill anything, it'd be another successful Fall Obsession trip, if you ask me. So, but for our listeners, we're going to wrap up the podcast again. Hopefully we're coming to you guys again with another one on the tails of this one, talking about some whitetail hunting that we're about to do. But thank you guys for tuning in. Whatever platform you're listening on, be sure you guys subscribe. Be sure you check out all the Carbon TV stuff. The podcast is obviously on there. Mike's show, Midwest Mindset, is on there. Nick and I's show, Texas Dirt, is on there. Couch Chats is on there. We got a bunch of cool stuff. The website, too, is where you guys can can go to find everything. Everything filters through there and pick you up some Fall Obsession swag. It's Christmas time coming up. It's good Christmas presents.
I suggest the hoodie if they're in stock.
Yeah, the blackout hoodie,
That's
incredibly popular. Our hats are pretty popular. We got all sorts of cool stuff on there. So if you're looking to do some Christmas shopping for the hunter and your family,
Get the orange rifle hunter hat.
Yeah, I
Oh,
got
yeah.
that
I'm
too.
3 for 3 wearing it.
yeah, Tim's got some lucky Fall Obsession apparel as well.
Yes, he
I've
does.
got my pronghorn country's 2 for 2.
Yeah,
My rifle hunter hat is 3 for 3.
there you go. Yeah.
They're both gonna come out on Friday. I'm saving them.
Yeah, saving the good luck charm for sure. But and I know I shout out sponsors at the beginning of the episodes, but in this episode in particular, I definitely want to mention Hoot Camo while we're sitting here,
They
because
crushed it for you.
this, I mean, I'm wearing just one of their t-shirts right here on the podcast video, but Mike and I have both been wearing their gear out here. This is our first hunt wearing their gear. This is a new partner for us and a podcast partner as well, and they went above and beyond to be sure that they were Johnny on the spot getting us gear in time for this hunt in the first place. So thank you for that. But then, I mean, the gear's been battle tested out here, in my opinion. Not just from the temperatures, but just from the wind, walking through stuff, me crawling around the CRP
I
today.
mean, we couldn't see other than your black hat. Thankfully you wore that hat.
If
You didn't have that black
pattern.
Fall Obsession hat on?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have seen you half the time.
This is the pattern I'm wearing. This is their Buho, I think is.
Yeah, Buho, yeah.
Buho. This is that pattern, and that's the pattern I'm wearing out here. And yeah, they're a Texas-based company, and I know they cater to whitetail bow hunters and stuff. Has been their main focus, but they're trying to expand into all these areas and prove to people that their products work in different environments. And this is one situation I think that justifies it, because I mean,
It shined today.
it definitely came out. So Hoot Camo, hootcamo.com. Use the code FALLOBSESSION15 to get yourself some savings in this holiday season.
There you go.
Go order some Hoot stuff. Pick at the minimum, go get a hat or something and help support them. So
Yeah.
they're an awesome company to work with. But thank you guys for listening. Hopefully we're back again next week for the Whitetail Podcast. But either way, we'll catch you on our next week's episode. Thanks for listening.